Hey everybody, before we get started today, we wanted to remind you of a free resource we have for you on our website. We have created a list of dinner conversation starters that we want to share with you to help you have better conversations with your kids over dinner. You can get that by going to parentsmakingtime.com/dinner conversations. Go there now so that you can start having those great conversations.
Hey, so what if the whole idea of having balance in parenting is completely misunderstood? So many of us chase this picture perfect life, work dialed in, happy, thriving kids, a clean house, and sufficient time for our own interests or hobbies. And when it doesn't look like that, we feel like we're failing. But what if balance isn't something we achieve so much as something we navigate in real time? What if it's more like being on a surfboard? The waves change moment to moment, but we try our best to stay on the board, and sometimes we even wipe out. Well, in today's episode, we're unpacking why the myth of balance creates guilt and unnecessary pressure in our lives, and how to trade it for rhythm, presence, and priorities that actually work in real family life so that you can truly enjoy riding the wave of parenting. This is Parents Making Time, the show that helps busy parents put family first without burning out.
We're Anthony and Jennifer Kraker. We don't just give parenting tips, we help you become the parent you want to be. All right, so many years ago when Anthony was graduating from law school, we had a conversation that I would say has been one that we've reminded ourselves of at various times in our life since. I was 8 months pregnant at the time with our last child, and Anthony was now done with law school, but now he needed to start studying for the bar exam. And to make matters worse, our baby was to be born just days before the bar exam, and we were going to move a few hours away just a few days after that. So we had a lot going on that summer. And that night, as we laid in bed talking about all that lie ahead of us, Anthony said something to me. He said, "I can't help you with that." And he was jokingly pointing to my very large belly. "And you can't help me study for the bar exam. So we'll figure out the move, but really we'll see each other in August." And it's kind of funny and we laugh about it, but it was really wise because there was no such thing as balance in this situation. There was just no way. He needed to be all in what he was doing, and I had to put all my efforts into home.
And thankfully we realize that, but therein lies the mistake that a lot of parents make in this journey we call family life. The mistake is thinking that there is such a thing as balance, or thinking that balance means that you give equal attention to all of the things all of the time, or a proportionate amount of attention to those things based on some ideal that you have in your mind about what balance is. Expecting that balance is something that you figure out and then you've got it is another mistake that's made, because really there is no such thing as balance if we're being truly honest, and life changes moment to moment, and we have to be adaptable. And when we set ourselves up for this idea of balance in family life, we're setting ourselves up for failure.
I think the issue, though, is that we believe that balance is the perfect way. Somehow society has told us that. And we treat it almost like a checklist. Like, if I've done this, if I've done that, I've got it all together and I'm fully balanced and all is great.
And what happens is when we do that is we increase our stress, we increase our anxiety because we're setting up these unrealistic expectations. And then it makes it actually less likely that we're going to be adaptable to the inevitable punches that are going to be thrown our way, right? We're not able to adapt. We're not able to adjust. And then we end up feeling like failures as parents. And we end up missing out on the moment. We miss being present because we're so focused on this idea of, oh, I've got to find balance. I've got to create balance with our family life so that everything goes the way it's quote unquote supposed to. When we do that, we end up missing out on what matters most, which is being present in the time that we do have with our kids and creating time with our kids that we can look back on with fondness and know that we're creating a real lasting legacy of love with our families.
I mean, it's hard. It's really hard because this idea of balance is really ingrained in our minds. It's really ingrained in our society. But we need to let go of that idea of perfection, at least perfection as far as being balanced. We need to really take a step back and be priority focused, not driven by what can we accomplish or how much did we do today. We've got to stop maxing out our schedule to do it all and redefine success and think rather, what did I do today? Well, how was I today? How did today go? Did I connect? Was I there? Was I present? Those are the better questions than what did I check off my to-do list? And if we can do that, I think we'll start feeling better.
As we're talking through this episode beforehand, I was thinking about how there are all these resources and tools and books and courses and things like that out there about how to manage our time, how to find balance, and different tactics and techniques and things. And we get in our head this idea that there's some magic way. And if we can just discover that magic way to find balance, everything will be smooth sailing. The reality is that while some of those ideas and resources can be helpful at different times in our lives, they're not necessarily going to be a permanent solution to all of the challenges and demands on our time.
Yeah, and going back to the analogy you used at the very beginning about a surfboard. So neither one of us are surfers, but we live in Florida and we go to the beach and we've boogie boarded. And I think of the times that I've actually caught the wave and flown into the shore,
Yeah,
how much fun that is,
right.
right? Like you're among chaos and the waves are crashing, but you're flying through and it's fun. And so thinking about what if you could let go of this idea of balance and just ride the wave and have fun with it.
And it's only fun. It's really only fun because it's hard to do.
Yeah.
Right? Because you fail so many times that when you finally do get to ride the wave, it's like, oh, wow, this is amazing. And so we have to recognize, I think it's important to look at this idea of how we live our lives and how we manage our time kind of holistically and say, okay, there are going to be times where I am crashing, right? I'm wiping out on the surfboard or the boogie board. And that's just how life is. But there are going to be other times where I'm going to ride that wave and it's going to be smooth sailing and it's going to be beautiful and it's going to be fun and I'm going to feel like I accomplished something.
And you can enjoy that moment because you've endured the others.
Right.
It's all a part of the same thing.
We've seen this in other examples in our lives. You talked about when I was in law school, but there's been other times where we've been able to accomplish some things because we didn't worry so much about the idea of balance. So one example is that several years ago, we live in Orlando, Florida, but the firm that I work for is headquartered in a different state. And at the time, the firm wanted to open up a local office here in Central Florida. I was tasked with that responsibility because I was the managing attorney in this area. And so on top of my regular job of practicing law, I had to find office space. I had to get office furniture and equipment. I had to hire staff. And it was kind of this big deal. And it took a lot of time to get this office up and running and get new staff trained that were local and try to accomplish some of the goals that we had as a firm with this office in addition to my normal responsibilities. And that's an example of where I was spending a lot of hours at work. I was still also doing a little bit of traveling with work. And ultimately, I was able to get that office up and running and accomplish that. But there was no balance in that time with family life.
No, I can remember us actually having a conversation over the cell phone because I think we weren't together very often. And I said to you, I've got the family, you handle this, we'll get through it.
Yeah.
And it's just how we had to do it.
Yeah. And it was a few months of kind of me not being as available to our family as I would have liked. But we made it work. We even had the kids come and help and set up
I remember.
office, put together desks and stuff like that at the
Yes,
office.
we did.
And there were ways to make it work, and we were still focused on our family. Our family was still our highest priority. It's just that particular season in life was really busy, and it took me away more than I would have liked, but it was necessary for my job. And so, again, going back to that surfboard analogy, the waves were difficult, but we stayed on the board and we rode them together as a family.
Yeah, another time I can think about is when I decided to go back to college. I did it online. It didn't, I wasn't going to class all the time or anything, but it still took away from the family. And you and I had that conversation of what that meant and how we could ride that wave.
So I think the big takeaway here is don't stress about balance. If you're chasing after balance, you're chasing after a mythical creature. It's not realistic to think that your life is going to be perfectly balanced, and that if you can just get to that point and figure out whatever tools or strategies you need to sustain it, then everything is going to be great. You are setting yourself up for failure. So rather than thinking of life that way, and parenting in particular that way, think of it more like the surfboard analogy that we've mentioned a couple of times now. Ride the waves, enjoy the ride,
Adjust to the waves.
adjust to the waves. If you wipe out, and you get back on the board, right? You keep going. And if that becomes your expectation as opposed to some mythical idea of balance, then your ability to be present and to experience joy in parenting is going to be greatly magnified.
For sure.
So if you like this episode, please leave us a rating or review and share this episode with a friend. We would be greatly appreciative if you would do those things.
And coming up next time, we're talking about something that every couple faces at some point. It's those seasons when parenting takes over and the marriage quietly slips into the back burner. When you're juggling kids and schedules and exhaustion, your connection can start to fade without either one of you meaning for it to. So we're going to share simple, meaningful ways to get closer, and why intentional time together matters, and why making date night a priority is important not just to you as a couple, but to the entire family. So if you're ready for more joy and more laughter and more us time again, this one's for you. And until next time, make time to become the parent you want to be.